A man accused of targeting, assaulting, and robbing several women in San Antonio's medical center is about to face a judge and jury. Anton Harris was arrested in 2017. Eyewitness News reporter Jeremy Baker was in the courtroom today. He joins us live from downtown with the latest on this case. Jeremy?
Yeah, Deborah, Anton Harris entered a guilty plea last July, but the judge denied that plea, which is why he's back in court again as jury selection takes place right now. Anton Harris is sitting with his lawyers in Judge Frank Castro's District Court 399 as they await the dozens chosen for jury duty waiting in the courthouse halls for jury selection. Harris was arrested in June of 2017 after authorities obtained a DNA match leading to him as suspect in the 6 cases which unfolded between June of 2016 and May of 2017. A grand jury returned 6 indictments against Harris in September of 2017, which include charges of aggravated sexual assault and aggravated robbery. The indictments allege that Harris followed his victims to their apartment doors and forced his way inside, threatening them with a knife or a gun. Harris would then sexually assault them and take their property, the indictment further alleges, and in some cases, Harris would knock on the victims' apartment doors and would then assault them, according to the indictment. Now he's 20 years old. He pled guilty to those charges, but after the plea was denied, preparations for the trial began. Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez said after his plea that it should send a message to the community that Anton Harris will no longer pose a danger. All 6 indictments are first-degree felonies punishable by 5 to 99 years or life in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. Jury selection is expected to be completed by the end of today, and the trial is set to begin tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Live from downtown by the Bexar County Courthouse, Jeremy Baker, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.